All right, we are back with my pal, my good friend for a long time, Lara Logan. Lara, really good to have you. You and I have been on stages before where we said we were on anti-war stages together before. Where, you know, I'm a libertarian. I think you're pretty close to that if you're not straight up libertarian as well. But this is why I'm having such a hard time with what we're doing in Venezuela. I love Trump. He sees the big picture. I get it. This isn't a knock on Trump. I just don't know that we need to be messing around in the Caribbean waters, blowing boats up, and certainly maybe not putting kinetic resources on the ground in Venezuela. Your thoughts?
So, Eric, the easy button is to say, I don't like war and this is wrong and I can see all the problems, right? I mean, we just had Iraq and Afghanistan. This is the president that's supposed to be ending wars, not starting them. That's the easy button. And by the way, that's the counter narrative that the left is going to run against Trump. That's very obvious. But I would ask you this, all those people in this country who say that we have to fix our elections, how do you fix your elections when the vast majority of money that is coming into this country to steal elections is coming from this network that of which Venezuela is an integral and central part. So it's not just that Venezuela created Smartmatic. How did Venezuela create Smartmatic? Well, guess what? In 2004, Hugo Chavez was facing an election that he was going to lose. So Cuban intelligence said to him, hey, you know what? There's this software that you can use that will steal the election for you. And that is the genesis of how digital technology has been used to steal elections. And it's not just in Venezuela, it's not just in the United States, it's in more than 70 countries in the world. So if you wonder why the United States is facing such opposition around the world, it's in part because they select leaders who hate the United States. If you wonder how the World Economic Forum and all of these crazy woke policies, these radical progressive globalists get into power around the world, it's not because they represent the people. It's because they are selected and placed in there in large part because of this corrupt election system. And it's not just the technology with the elections, it's the fact that this cartel de los Sols, which is cartel of the sun, they run Venezuela. So something that I think is helpful for people to understand, when you look at Iran and you see the Ayatollah, you think he's in charge. No, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is another criminal enterprise, they run Iran and the Ayatollah works for them. It's the same thing in Venezuela. The cartel runs the country. So Maduro, the reason that he was designated by Trump as the head of the cartel and they put a bounty on his head of 50 million is because his real job is to run the cartel. And they put him there so that he has the power of a state,
but Laura,
which
listen,
gives him diplomatic immunity.
I don't want to disagree with you. I agree with everything you just said. I just don't like the idea of regime change at the behest of the United States. But wait, allow me though.
Regime change.
I think the cartel, the Mexican cartels are equally as dangerous as the Venezuelan cartels, and we're not talking about removing Scheinbaum, but it's just me. I just don't like war.
I'm not saying you need, I'm not saying remove Maduro. I'm asking you, how do you fix this problem? You have Cartel del Sol is the largest criminal enterprise on earth with $2.7 trillion in liquid assets. So I'm not saying Mexico is not a problem, but who do you think works together? The Mexican cartels have the geographic advantage. They're the gatekeepers, but all of them work together. To isolate them is a mistake. The Venezuelans work with the Cubans, of course, they work with the Iranians, they work with the Chinese, and so on. The Chinese provide the precursor chemicals, they provide the pills and all of this stuff. They're carrying out drug warfare. They've infiltrated the United States with a foreign paramilitary organization whose job is to destabilize this country and be the army of the deep state. They work with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They work with every Islamic terrorist organization. All of our enemies are working together. So I'm not saying that this is the right solution, the way to deal with it. All I'm saying to you is it's very easy to say, oh, no, I don't like war. How do you expect? What is your answer then for how you actually deal with this?
I don't know.
If you want free and fair elections in the United States, you have to dismantle the system that fixes those elections.
Agreed. I just don't have the answer. I just know which option I prefer not. Laura, you have something very special. Tell us about what you have, some whistleblower, you have some breaking news. Tell us about that.
Well, all of these things are connected, right? And so, when you look at what has been happening in the United States, I think one of the questions, the enduring questions that people have is who's behind all of this? And yes, there are the names, the Barack Obamas and the George Soroses. These are people that are kind of, tactical commanders, operational commanders of much of what we have seen happening in the United States. But there's always this question of who's behind it all? What's the they? Because when you learn, when you learn about warfare, you learn about genocide, you learn about all these things, you begin to recognize that there are systems of command and control that have to be running these things for them to work. Like, how do you get all these different agencies to work together to suppress the truth? Well, you need a command and control system. And our guest that we have has been working on this for some 9 years with a team. They have documented all of this, and they have a case that's in the court. They've put all of this into government record across many different agencies, from the Department of Justice to the FBI to the intel agencies. They've been all over Congress. They've been to the White House, and they have a case in the courts that shows that the government is derelict in its duty, is failing to investigate. And why? Because the command and control system that has been shutting down all of these things that we have seen, whether it's Fast and Furious under Eric Holder, or it's the IRS persecuting Christian and conservative organizations, or it's the Russia collusion investigation that goes nowhere, or it's the Ukraine impeachment trial. These operations are being run out of an organization called the Council for the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency that was created under Barack Obama in 2008. And by the way, his partner in creating that, in having this brought into law, was none other than Chuck Grassley on the other side of the aisle. And then it was supported, by people on both sides of the aisle. So they created this council, which is in charge of the inspectors general. So what has been happening, a lot of us are asking ourselves, why is there no one that's willing to stand up in the federal government? We do hear about whistleblowers from time to time, but by and large, these people have been able to weaponize these agencies and walk all over the American people and commit crimes against the American people and get away with it. So you would ask yourself, well, why is that? Well, what do you think happens when you make a whistleblower complaint inside, say, the intelligence community? Where does it go to? It goes to the Inspector General of the intelligence community. Isn't that interesting? That's where investigations and complaints, instead of going to be for them to be acted upon, instead of the right thing to happen, what happens is they go there to die. Right? And so what does the Inspector General, the council, do? They do things like they have an annual gathering every year. Who do they have as their guest of honor? Not so long ago, they had Anthony Fauci. Well, what are they doing there? They're sending a message to all of the Inspector Generals in, like, the National Institutes of Health, for example, and beyond. Don't touch this guy. He's a made man. He belongs to us. And so what they do is, they investigate what they want to, such as when they went after Donald Trump for Russia collusion, right? So when they want to do an investigation to reinforce an operation or a false narrative or to take out their political rivals, they have the power to do that. And when they don't want something to be investigated, or they want that investigation to die on the vine, they're able to do that too. And then when you have people who are retaliated against, whistleblowers who have legal protections against them, well, where do they go? It all ends up in this clearinghouse of the inspectors general, where they have the ability to control whatever they want. So now you wonder why is the Trump administration not investigating, not prosecuting a lot of people when they have enough evidence to do so? Well, in part, it's because it goes back to what is really a kind of rear guard. And if you've felt over the years like there's two governments, two systems of justice, two tiers of accountability in this country, it's because there actually are. And it has names, it has faces, and it has a physical location. And guess what? The article that, the statement when this body was created, you know what it actually says? That they are an independent entity within the executive branch. So they use the protection of the executive branch, but they're not answerable to the chief executive of the executive branch, which is the president of the United States.
This is why, folks, the premier investigative journalist, not just country, this world has ever seen, Lara Logan. It's called Going Rogue with Lara Logan. And folks, it's a must-watch podcast on YouTube, right, Lara? Is that where they find it?
You can see it on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, of course, on Instagram. I mean, you can pretty much find us all over if we're not, if they don't try to suppress it.
And by the way, President Trump is listening to Lara Logan's podcast. So if you want to hear what he's hearing and thinking, definitely tune into that. Lara Logan, always good to have you. Get you back again real soon. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right. She's great. Love her. All right, folks, The Edge. This is amazing this week. We have a huge, very special episode. We go deep with Tito Ortiz into his journey, his life, his injuries, the surgeries, the setbacks, all of it, and how he still clawed his way to becoming UFC champion for 3 straight years. It's raw, it's honest, it's pure, it's The Edge. Watch. Tito Ortiz lived the kind of life most people only talk about: pressure, chaos, legacy, heartbreak, comebacks. He's taken massive blows, hits inside of the cage, and life-altering hits outside of it as well, and somehow he kept getting back up. And something he does at the end of that episode that shocked all of us. You have to watch it, though. You got to subscribe. Take your phone. Just put the camera up to that. Subscribe there, that QR code. Hit the little yellow line. Subscribes. You're never going to be charged a penny. I promise you, not going to be sent a thing. It just tells YouTube we're growing like crazy, and we are. Top 1/10 of 1% of all new YouTube shows. YouTube.com/@Eric Bolling, The Edge. Eric Bolling, The Edge. Look it up on YouTube. We're blowing it out. Want you there, part of it. And I want to say thank you to you for subscribing right now. We'll be back 2.5 minutes.